I realized my brother wasn't protecting me the day I heard a client laugh and say, "She's the bonus you promised, right?" My brother didn't deny it. He just smiled like I was a product he was confident would sell. In that moment, every uneasy compliment, every wear something nice, every time clients stared at me instead of the presentation, it all snapped together like a trap closing. I wasn't his sister in those meetings. I was leverage, currency, a bargaining chip with lipstick. And while that alone was enough to break me, the real betrayal wasn't his. It was hers. My best friend, the person who knew every fear I'd whispered at 3 a.m., the girl I defended, trusted, fed, sheltered, was helping him do it. Feeding him advice. Telling him how to manage me. Telling him which outfits made clients more generous. I thought discovering their messages was the end of the story. But it was just the beginning. Because someone else was using both of them, pushing this whole thing from the shadows. And when I finally learned who, I understood I was never part of the business. I was the business. If you'd asked anyone who knew us, they'd swear Declan Vale was the kind of older brother every girl deserved, the golden boy, the achiever, the one who walked into every room like the world had already agreed to cooperate with him. And me? I was Marina, the artistic one, the gentle one, the one people described with soft adjectives that sound flattering until you realize they usually mean easy to walk over. But there's something dangerous about a reputation everyone agrees on. Leverage hides best behind admiration. My involvement in Declan's consulting firm, Vale & Locke Strategies, started innocently. "Mar, your eye for detail is better than half my team," he'd say, sliding a half-finished pitch deck across my kitchen table. "Just give it the Marina touch." I'd fix colors, pacing, transitions. He'd get the deals. I'd get a text with a heart emoji and a, "You saved me again." It wasn't much, but it felt appreciated. Sierra, my best friend, practically my sister, loved it even more. "Marina, this is your moment," she'd say, tossing her hair back with that effortless confidence I always envied. "One day you'll stop helping behind the scenes and start running those rooms." If only I knew she meant it literally. One Thursday afternoon, Declan breezed into my apartment like he owned the air inside it. "Mar, I need you tomorrow," he said. "Big meeting. Old school clients. They respond better when things feel grounded." I frowned. "Grounded how?" He gestured vaguely at me. "You know, family, warmth, stability, dress sharp." Sierra nudged me with a smile. "You should go. You clean up beautifully, and honestly, you're more charismatic than you think." I should have noticed it the way she looked at him before she looked at me. But hindsight always performs better than intuition. The conference room smelled like expensive cologne and unspoken agendas. I sat beside Declan, keeping my posture straight, my smile polite, my presence small. The clients greeted me with two warm grins. "Ah, this must be the sister you mentioned," one said. "A pleasure." I blinked. "Mentioned? When? Why?" Declan just gave a little shrug like it meant nothing. The meeting went smoothly, smoother than his usual ones. The men laughed more, asked fewer difficult questions, leaned back in their chairs like the deal was already done. "You bring a calming energy," one client told me afterward, hand hovering near my waist before he withdrew it. "Makes negotiations feel less brutal." I laughed because I didn't know what else to do. Declan didn't correct him. Adrian, his partner, just watched me with a smile too measured to trust. After that, invitations multiplied. "Mar, can you make a dinner on Friday? Wear something professional. Adrian wants everyone looking unified." Clients keep asking about you in a good way. Every time I hesitated, Sierra would tilt her head and say, "You're overthinking it. This is your brother. He'd never put you somewhere unsafe." Untrue. But I didn't know that yet. Little things shifted. A client who said, "Smart move, bringing her again." Another who winked and murmured, "She's good luck, Declan." Sometimes a hand lingered half a second too long during greetings. Sometimes Declan looked proud instead of concerned. Once, Adrian leaned over during a dinner and whispered, "You're a natural asset, Marina. Never underestimate the power of presence." Presence? What did that even mean? I told myself it was harmless, that corporate people were just weird, that Declan would step in if anything ever crossed a line. It took shockingly long to realize he already had just not in the direction I believed. By the third week of just one more meeting, I noticed a pattern. Declan only invited me when the stakes were high. Big money clients, old investors, people with suits that probably cost more than my rent. Every time I walked into those rooms, there was this ripple, a shift. Like my arrival was part of a rehearsed moment rather than coincidence. Adrian would make eye contact with Declan, then with me. Clients' conversations softened the moment I sat down. Waiters at business dinners greeted me before anyone else. None of it made sense, yet all of it felt intentional. The language changed two small comments that felt harmless until you stitched them together. You brighten the room, Marina. Declan wasn't lying, you do make things smoother. Glad you could join again. Meetings feel lighter with you here. Lighter? Smoother? Since when did billion-rupee business deals depend on vibes? One client, a man twice my age, held his drink and said, "Negotiations flowed better tonight. Must be Marina's presence." He said it like he was explaining gravity. Declan stood beside him, smiling. Not confused. Not surprised. Pleased. That was the first time my breath stumbled inside my chest. At home, Declan started speaking to me differently, less like a brother. More like someone subtly managing a brand. Wear the beige blazer tomorrow, it photographs well. Skip the jewelry, it looks distracting on camera. Don't sit too stiff, clients read that as tension. Smile more during introductions, it disarms people. Smile more. Smile more. Smile more. The phrase embedded itself like a splinter. When I pushed back gently, he brushed it off. Mar, relax. You're overanalyzing. This is normal business psychology. But it didn't feel normal. It felt curated. Like I was part of a package I didn't know I'd been signed up to deliver. Even Sierra started acting strangely. Before, she hyped me up like a best friend would. But now, the push was heavier, more strategic. Mar, don't skip tomorrow's meeting, she said one night while we folded laundry. Declan said it's a huge client. They'll expect you. Expect me? Why? I asked. She didn't blink. You bring balance. You soften the room. You're valuable there. Valuable. Another corporate word slipping into personal conversations. I laughed it off, but something inside me recoiled quietly, electrically, like my instincts were tapping my shoulder, asking, why is she so invested? Sarah wasn't in the industry. She had no stake in these deals. Yet she spoke like she'd been part of the planning. It happened at a high-end restaurant with navy walls and waiters who moved like shadows. Adrian slid a folder across the table for Declan to sign, then turned to me with that calibrated smile. You're becoming our secret weapon, Marina. My pulse skipped. What does that mean? He chuckled softly. You know, not everyone can make clients feel comfortable. Comfortable how? Comfortable why? Before I could press, one of the clients, a man with a silver watch and an ego to match, leaned in. Marina, you'll be at the retreat next month, yes? The team will be thrilled. You've become part of the experience. Part of the experience. Like decor. Like ambiance. Like something strategically placed. Declan didn't flinch. Didn't defend me. Didn't say a single word that would reframe the assumption. He just clinked his glass and said, if my sister's there, the weekend will go flawlessly. I felt a sharp shiver crawl across my shoulders. Not fear. Recognition. Something was wrong. Very wrong. On the Uber ride home, I stared out the window as city lights blurred into a metallic smear. I replayed every moment from the last month. Every compliment. Every request. Every lingering stare. None of it felt isolated anymore. There was a pattern. And patterns don't form by accident. I finally asked Declan quietly, why do clients keep mentioning me? He didn't miss a beat. They like you. You humanize the room. Humanize the room. Another phrase that meant everything and nothing. When we got home, he said, Be ready for tomorrow, big client. Wear something understated. Understated. Manageable. Marketable. I nodded, but something in my chest tightened in a way that didn't let go, not even hours later. Because for the first time since this started, I wasn't sure if my brother saw me as his sister anymore, or as something else entirely. It happened on a night so ordinary it should have been forgettable. Declan had left his phone on my kitchen counter, something he never did. He treated that device like a priest treats a confessional. But tonight, it buzzed. Once. Twice. Then again, in a rapid chain, the kind of vibration that signals urgency, or panic, or something someone doesn't want ignored. I shouldn't have looked. But the screen lit up with a preview message so blatant, it didn't care whether I was watching or not. Client, Mr. R, will the bonus be present at tomorrow's sit-down? Bonus? My stomach went cold. Declan's reply popped up immediately beneath it. Yes, she'll be there. She keeps things smooth. Smooth? Like I was some kind of lubricant for deals. My fingers shook before I even unlocked the phone. Inside the chat, things were worse. Much worse. Clients referring to me as an added advantage. Declan promising my attendance as part of his pitch. Adrian sending reminders like, make sure Marina looks polished tomorrow. This client prefers a softer edge in negotiations. A softer edge. A feature. A curated asset. There were even notes about my outfits. Understated colors work best. Hair down creates better rapport. Don't let her sit too far from the table. I felt every bone in my body stiffen. These weren't coincidences. These weren't harmless compliments. These weren't misunderstandings. This was strategy. Deliberate, rehearsed, shameless strategy. And the part that truly broke something inside me? Declan wasn't being manipulated. He was participating. The messages weren't vulgar or explicit. That almost made them worse. They were professional, coded, businesslike. They didn't say, she's available. They didn't have to. They implied I was selectively present, purposely styled, emotionally supportive, physically included, a predictable part of the ambiance. Someone they could count on. Something they could count on. I wasn't a sister in that chat. I was leverage. One message from Declan to a client sealed it. Don't worry, she'll be there. She knows how to keep the room comfortable. Comfortable. My vision blurred. My throat tightened. My entire body pulsed with disbelief so sharp it felt physical. Because I realized in that moment, for the first time, Declan knew exactly what clients assumed about me. And instead of correcting them, he chose to profit from it. At the very bottom of the chat was a different bubble. A name I trusted even more than him. Sarah Ward. She won't question it if you frame it as helping the company. She hates disappointing you. My breath stopped. She wasn't even in the industry. She had nothing to gain. She wasn't supposed to be involved in any of this. Yet her next message shattered me. Marina will do it. Just let her think it's her choice. I dropped the phone. My ears rang. My chest burned. My eyes stung with a betrayal so intimate and precise it felt engineered. This wasn't just about Declan anymore. Someone else, someone I loved, had been sharpening the knife too. When Declan walked in minutes later, casual and humming like the world was fine, I saw him differently. Not as my brother, but as a man who had turned me into a bargaining chip and called it business. He didn't know I'd seen everything. And for the first time since this nightmare started, I didn't know who I could trust. Or who was using me next. Sleep didn't happen that night. My mind replayed each message like a looped nightmare. She'll be there. She keeps the room comfortable. Let her think it's her choice. Every word felt like a fingerprint on my skin, unwanted, unasked for, undeniable. By morning, my body was functioning on autopilot. Brushing my teeth felt foreign. Picking an outfit felt like dressing someone else. Declan knocked once on my bedroom door before opening it. You ready for today's meeting? The casual tone. The complete lack of guilt. The assumption that nothing had changed. I looked at him and realized something terrifying. He genuinely believed he was entitled to my compliance. At the office, the tension was a living thing. Adrian flashed that curated smile when he saw me. Marina, perfect timing. Declan said you'd be joining. My skin prickled. The clients arrived, 3 men in suits sharp enough to cut glass. Their eyes landed on me before the conference table, before the projector, before the financial reports. One of them grinned. There she is, the charm of veil and lock. Charm. Bonus. Asset. Experience. Presence. Different words for the same violation. During the meeting, they barely looked at the numbers. They watched me. Every time I shifted in my seat, their attention flicked back. Every polite laugh, every nod, every breath felt like a performance in a role I never auditioned for. Declan noticed, of course he did, but his reaction wasn't concern. It was satisfaction. A private pride. A silent, I told you she'd be useful. Sarah met me after the meeting, her energy bright and rehearsed. You look drained, she said, squeezing my shoulder. Big meeting? I froze at her touch. Sarah, were you texting Adrian? She didn't flinch. Didn't break eye contact. Didn't even pretend to misunderstand. Mar, listen, she said softly. They trust you. You help them. This is how growth works. Not denial. Not confusion. Just justification. You make clients comfortable, she continued. It's not a bad thing. Lots of women have that gift. Gift. Gift? The room tilted. My chest tightened. She wasn't supporting me. She was validating the exploitation. And the worst part? She said it with the same gentle voice she used when comforting me about breakups and job rejections, as if this was kindness too. That night, Adrian approached me during the dinner with a glass of wine. You handled today well, he murmured. Clients adore you. It's becoming your specialty. My specialty? I asked, my voice sharp. He leaned closer. You make deals smoother. That's a rare talent. Then he added, almost too low to hear. Don't make Declan look bad by sitting out future meetings. He relies on you more than you realize. A threat wrapped in a compliment. My blood went cold. On the ride home, Declan was unusually cheerful. That was huge, he said. Adrian thinks we have the client. And honestly, Marina, I couldn't have done it without you. Declan, I said slowly, why do clients keep asking if I'll be there? He didn't hesitate. They like your energy. That's not what the messages said. Silence. Sharp, slicing silence. His jaw flexed. His hands tightened on the steering wheel. You went through my phone? He asked softly, not hurt, not angry, but calculating. I saw enough, I whispered. He exhaled, long and annoyed. Marina, you're overreacting. This is business. You bring warmth, approachability. It's harmless. Harmless. He used the word like a weapon. When we reached home, he blocked the doorway with his body. You need to understand something, he said, voice low. This firm is my life. Adrian and I built everything from zero. And if your presence helps keep that alive, you should be proud of that. Proud. Proud. I stared at him, searching for the brother I used to know. He was gone. In his place stood a man who had rewritten me into a tool, something to be deployed, arranged, styled, and positioned. A commodity. And the worst part? He genuinely believed I should be grateful for the role. I went to bed that night with a truth lodged deep in my chest. This wasn't accidental. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't Declan being careless or oblivious. It was intentional, planned, refined. I wasn't just being brought into meetings. I was being positioned, styled, presented, leveraged. And the people doing it weren't strangers in suits. They were the two people I trusted most. What I still didn't know, what kept my heart pounding long after the lights went out, was why they felt so confident doing it. Or who had convinced them they could. I didn't plan on confronting Declan. I wanted space-time to breathe, think, understand. But the next evening, he walked into my apartment unannounced, like he always had the right to. Get ready, he said, hanging his suit jacket on the back of my chair. We have a follow-up dinner. Something inside me finally snapped. I'm not going. He froze. Actually froze. Like the idea that I could refuse simply did not fit into his worldview. "What do you mean you're not going?" he said, laughing a little, waiting for me to laugh too. "I'm not," I repeated. "I saw your messages." His expression drained of humor instantly. There it was, the real face. Calculated. Cold where warmth should have been. "So this is about the phone," he said quietly. "No," I whispered. "It's about the fact that you're offering me to clients like I'm some kind of accessory." His jaw clenched. A muscle near his temple twitched. "Marina, stop! You're blowing this out of proportion." He stepped closer, lowering his voice the way people do when they're preparing to manipulate. "You're misunderstanding business dynamics." "Business dynamics don't involve selling your sister," I shot back. His eyes flashed irritation, not guilt. "I never said anything inappropriate," he snapped. "You didn't have to," I said. "You let them assume. You encouraged it." He dragged a hand through his hair. "Do you have any idea how hard I've worked for this firm? How many nights I've stayed up trying to fix everything Adrian screws up? If your presence helps us secure deals..." "My presence?" I laughed, but it sounded like it belonged to someone else. "You promise me to clients. You dictate what I wear. You tell them I'll make the room comfortable. You're using me." He didn't deny it. He didn't apologize. He just exhaled slowly and said the sentence that shattered every piece of loyalty I had left. "You owe me, Marina." I stared at him. "Excuse me? You've lived off me for years. Free help. Free connections. Free protection. Don't act like you haven't benefited." Protection. The word tasted rotten. "Declan, I'm your sister." "And?" he shot back, stepping closer. "Family helps family. You're helping me the only way you can." "The only way?" My voice cracked. He didn't stop. "You're good at softening the room. Clients trust you more than they trust me. That's valuable. Why can't you just appreciate being useful?" Useful. Useful. The word crashed into me so hard I felt physically dizzy. "You sound like you own me," I whispered. His voice rose, the first sign of real anger. "I'm building something massive, Marina, something that will secure both of our futures. Stop acting like attending some dinners is torture. You look pretty, you sit there, you smile, and the deal gets done. Why does that bother you so much? Pretty. Sit. Smile. Be quiet. Be useful." My hands curled into fists. I moved past him, reaching for my purse. I needed air, a moment, anything. "Where are you going?" he demanded. "Away from you." He grabbed my arm, not to hurt, to stop. To control. "Marina, don't do this. Let me go. Stop being dramatic. Let me go." He released me like I burned him, but his expression sharpened with something new. Fear? No. Self-preservation. He wasn't worried about me. He was worried about what my resistance meant for him. His hand trembled slightly. His voice did too. "If you ruin this deal," he whispered, "I swear you'll regret it." The lamp on my side table crashed seconds later, not because he threw it at me, but because he slammed his hand on the table so hard the vibration sent it toppling. Glass shattered across the floor. I flinched. He didn't. I turned to him slowly, heart hammering. "Declan, listen to yourself." He didn't blink. "You're not backing out of tomorrow," he said. "I've already told Adrian you'll be there." My stomach dropped. "You talked to Adrian about me?" I asked quietly. "Of course," he said. "We coordinate your appearances." Appearances. As if I were a branded product. Something fragile cracked deep inside me, something that could never be put back where it belonged. I whispered the only truth left. "I don't recognize you anymore." His face twisted with something ugly and unfamiliar. "That's because you're finally seeing what it takes to win." I walked past him, stepping over shards of glass, feeling the world tilt beneath me. Behind me, Declan didn't apologize. He didn't explain. He didn't call my name. He just said, "Make sure you look presentable tomorrow." And in that moment, I knew. Whatever was happening wasn't just Declan being reckless or desperate. Someone had convinced him he could push me this far. Someone had made him believe I was part of the strategy. And that someone was waiting in the shadows for their turn. I didn't go to the meeting the next morning. I didn't dress up. I didn't answer Declan's calls. I didn't check my messages. I sat on the floor of my room, knees pulled to my chest, watching sunlight crawl across the wall like it was counting down to something I wasn't ready to face. By noon, Declan had stopped calling. By 1, the silence felt worse than the shouting. At 2, Sarah showed up. She didn't knock politely. She barged in like she paid rent. "Marina, what are you doing?" she demanded. "You missed a critical meeting." Critical. Not "are you okay?" Not "what happened?" Just critical. I looked up at her, exhausted. "You knew," I whispered. "You knew what they were doing to me." Her expression didn't break. Not even for a second. "Mar, don't make this dramatic," she said, sitting across from me. "You're taking everything too personally." I stared at her in disbelief. "Clients think I'm part of the deal," I said, "and you told them I wouldn't question it. How is that not personal?" She exhaled sharply, annoyed. "Because it's business. Not everything is about your feelings." My heart cracked at her tone, the dismissiveness, the superiority. The way she said your feelings like they were a burden she'd carried for years. "Sierra, you're supposed to be on my side." "I am," she insisted. "You're helping Declan, helping the firm, helping build something that could change all of our lives. I'm trying to make sure you don't ruin it with panic. Panic. Panic." She said it like my fear was embarrassing her. That's when I realized Sierra didn't just know. She approved. "Adrian said you might get overwhelmed," she continued. My chest tightened. "Adrian?" My voice was barely a breath. "Why are you talking to him about me?" She blinked, the first sign she'd said more than she meant to. We're all connected now. He just wants to make sure you're comfortable." Comfortable? That cursed word again. I stood up slowly. "Sierra, how long have you been talking to Adrian about me?" She hesitated. "Hesitation is confession. He reached out months ago," she finally said. "Wanted insight. Wanted to understand you." "Understand me for what?" I demanded. She swallowed. "To manage you," she admitted quietly. "To help Declan keep things running smoothly." Manage me. Manage me. The floor felt like it tilted. "Why would you even agree to that?" I whispered. Her expression changed, not guilt, not shame. "Ambition. I want a position at the firm," she said bluntly. "Adrian said if I helped create harmony during negotiations, he'd put in a good word for me. This is not personal, March. It's strategic." The words struck me like a slap. "You betrayed me for a job?" I choked out. She shrugged slightly, as if the answer was obvious. "We're adults. Opportunities don't fall from the sky. Sometimes you have to play the game." "Play the game." She said it like she expected applause. "Sierra, you used to say you'd protect me." "And I did," she snapped. "If I hadn't guided Declan on how to talk to you, you would have freaked out months ago and blown everything up." Guided. Directed. Controlled. She wasn't a bystander. She was an architect. She reached for my hand. "Marina, listen. You're good for this. You don't fight, you don't argue, you're easy to handle." I finished. Her silence was confirmation. My breath shook. "Get out," I said. She blinked. "Mar, get out." Her face hardened, cold, unfamiliar. "You're making a mistake. Adrian won't like this." I froze. Why would Adrian care what I do? "Because now," she smiled. That subtle, terrible smile people wear when they know a secret you don't. "Because," she said softly, "none of this was Declan's idea." My entire internal world stilled. "What are you talking about?" "This started with Adrian," she said. "He's the one who told Declan how valuable you were. He's the one who positioned you. He's the one who coached us on how to frame everything so you wouldn't panic. He sees potential in you the way we never did." We. As if they were a team? As if I were the project? My voice trembled. "Sarah, what did Adrian want from me?" Her eyes softened with something that looked almost like pity. "You should ask him yourself." She walked out, leaving the door half open behind her, a gesture that felt deliberate, like an invitation I didn't want and a warning I wasn't ready for. And as the silence settled again, one truth pulsed through my mind with terrifying clarity. Declan might have used me. Sierra might have guided him. But Adrian? Adrian was the one orchestrating the entire performance. And I was the centerpiece he wasn't finished with yet. After Sierra left, I sat in my silent apartment for hours, her final words looping in my mind like a warning I hadn't earned the right to ignore. This wasn't Declan's idea. It started with Adrian. Adrian Locke. Declan's polished, unreadable partner. The man who always watched me with that slight, measured smile, the kind you can't tell is admiration or calculation. Suddenly, every unsettling detail clicked. His subtle hints, his quiet corrections, his interest in my presence, his conversations with Sierra, his coaching of Declan. He wasn't a bystander. He was the architect. And if that was true, then the messages on Declan's phone were only the smoke, not the fire. So I made a choice I never thought I'd make. I decided to confront Adrian. Not for answers. For truth. The next morning, I went to the Vale and Locke office unannounced. My chest was tight, my palms were cold, and every nerve in my body begged me to walk back out the revolving doors. But I pushed forward, not because I felt brave, but because I couldn't keep living in half-answers. Adrian's glass-walled office sat at the end of the hallway, pristine and silent, like a shrine to ambition. He looked up the moment I entered. "Marina," he said smoothly, standing to greet me. "I wasn't expecting you today." "I'm sure you weren't," I replied. His eyebrow lifted with interest, not guilt, not surprise. Interest. As if I were a new chapter in a book he had already outlined. "Sit," he said, gesturing toward the leather chair across from him. I didn't. "I know what you've been doing," I said. He folded his hands over his desk. "Then tell me," he said calmly, "what do you think I've been doing?" "Using me to manipulate deals," I said. "Coaching Declan, coaching Sierra, positioning me like some kind of strategic ornament." Adrian didn't deny it. He didn't flinch. He simply tilted his head, studying me like I was presenting him with data. "Those are bold accusations," he said, his voice a low hum, but not entirely inaccurate. Blood roared in my ears. "So, you admit it?" "I admit," he said slowly, "that I recognize value where others miss it." Value. Commodity. Asset. Presence. Just different synonyms for ownership. "You involved my best friend," I whispered. "You manipulated my brother." He smiled faintly. "I didn't manipulate. I guided. Declan is talented, but impulsive. He needed direction. Sarah? She simply wanted to be useful." "And what did you want?" I demanded. His answer came without hesitation. "You. Not romantically. Not lustfully. Not in any way that honored human emotion. He wanted me as a tool. As leverage. As a psychological instrument." "Why me?" I asked, my voice cracking. Adrian leaned back, fingers steepled. "Our firm needed a differentiator," he said plainly. "Numbers alone aren't enough in this market. Clients want trust, warmth, a soft landing." "A soft landing," I repeated, disgust curling in my throat. "You're disarming," he continued. "Clients drop their guard around you. They negotiate less aggressively. They commit faster. You're an advantage. An advantage you used without my consent." He didn't correct me this time. He didn't say it was misunderstanding. He said something far worse. "You didn't need to consent. You were already part of the ecosystem." My stomach twisted. Ecosystem? Declan brings strategy. I bring negotiation. You bring emotional equilibrium. 3 parts of one machine. Machine. He saw me as a component. Replaceable. Manageable. Usable. "And what if I stop participating?" I asked. He smiled a slow, confident smile that chilled the room. "You won't." "Why?" I whispered. "Because Declan needs you," he said. "And you won't abandon him. He knows it. I know it. And you know it." My body went cold. Because this wasn't arrogance. It was certainty. You think I'll keep showing up to help your firm? I said. I think, Adrian replied, that after enough pressure, every person chooses the role they're best suited for. Best suited for. A role he had written for me without my knowledge. A future he expected me to fill. A cage disguised as opportunity. I turned to leave, shaking. But Adrian spoke again, voice like velvet over steel. Marina, you were never the bonus. You were the foundation. I paused. Foundations crack, I said. He smiled. Not if they're built carefully. A threat. A promise. A blueprint. I walked out of that office knowing one thing with absolute certainty. Declan had betrayed me. Sarah had manipulated me. But Adrian had built an entire system around me. And people like him don't give up their systems easily. I left Adrian's office with my pulse thrumming in my ears, but something strange happened on the elevator ride down. The fear didn't swallow me whole this time. It crystallized. It sharpened. It aligned itself into something that felt dangerously close to purpose. Adrian had made one mistake in all his smooth talking. He underestimated the kind of survival instinct betrayal awakens. He saw me as emotional equilibrium, as softness, as stability. But people forget. Stability becomes a weapon the moment it's disrupted. He expected me to collapse. Instead, I began to watch. For 2 days, I did nothing. I didn't confront Declan. I didn't call Sarah. I didn't show up to meetings. I simply paid attention. Declan's texts shifted from demanding pleading frustrated cold. Where are you? Adrian's asking about you. You're making this harder than it needs to be. We need you for tomorrow. He still thought he and I were a team. That illusion was about to die. I spent hours replaying every detail from the past months. Sarah's suspiciously timed encouragements. Adrian's clinical interest. Declan's growing dependence. The client's strange familiarity. The coded messages. The careful styling requests. The way every compliment felt rehearsed. It was all too coordinated to be improvisation. They weren't responding to my presence. They were managing it. But management always leaves a trail. So I searched for it. Declan worked messy. Adrian worked organized. That contrast, I realized, was my opening. I logged into the shared drive Declan once asked me to use for pitch edits. He never changed the password, a blend of his birthday and mine. Inside, most folders were normal. Pitch decks, reports, legal documents. But one folder had a name that made my blood run cold. Client Psychology Assets Q1. Assets. My finger hovered over the trackpad before I clicked. Inside were subfolders labeled with client names, notes, strategies, psychological profiles. But the very top folder? My name. Marina Vale Integration Model. My breath hitched. I clicked. The first page was a list of bullet points. Clinical. Emotionless. Precise. Marina's presence reduces client resistance by 27%. Positive impact strongest in older demographic groups. Recommend positioning. Adjacent seat placement plus soft color palette. Avoid assertive postures, encourages perception of warmth. High compliance likelihood when framed as family responsibility. Emotional leverage point. Loyalty to Declan. Low risk of pushback if reinforced by peer figure, Sarah. I felt sick. They'd quantified me, measured me, predicted me, manufactured my reactions. This wasn't improvisation. This was design. Then came page 2. Projected Q2 strategy involving Marina. My hands went numb as I read. Increase presence at high-stakes dinners. Introduce Marina to 2 upcoming investor retreats. Prepare her for client-facing comfort interactions. Transition Marina from passive role to active relational engagement. Manage resistance via Sarah and Declan reinforcement. Relational engagement. Comfort interactions. Manage resistance. Every word felt like a hand tightening around my throat. And then, at the bottom, long-term potential, Marina as branded trust ambassador. Branded ambassador. It wasn't just exploitation anymore. It was a plan for my future. A future I hadn't agreed to. I stared at the screen, breath shallow, vision blurring at the edges. Declan had sold me. Sierra had shaped me. But Adrian had studied me. As if I were a system. An algorithm. A variable to optimize. I closed the laptop gently, not out of calm, but because rage had become sharp, precise, and controlled. They thought they knew me. They thought I was predictable. They thought I was a low-resistance asset. But they had forgotten one thing. People who feel trapped don't stay trapped. They revolt. Quietly at first. Then completely. I wiped my tears, stood up, and grabbed my phone. And for the first time in weeks, I wasn't afraid of Declan. Or Sierra. Or Adrian. I was ready for them. Because now I knew exactly what they wanted. And I knew exactly how to burn the entire plan to the ground. I didn't confront anyone right away. People like Adrian expect emotional explosions, shouting, crying, panic. They prepare for that. They have scripts for that. But they never prepare for silence. Silence terrifies manipulators because it means you're thinking. And thinking is dangerous. So I gave him silence. I ignored every call from the firm. I left messages from Declan unread. I didn't open the door when Sarah showed up twice, knocking hard enough to rattle the frame. Their panic was my first victory. I spent the next 2 days gathering every piece of data I could without alerting anyone. Screenshots of Declan's messages. The entire Client Psychology Assets folder. Notes around comfort interactions and resistance management. Emails with timestamps showing coordination between Declan, Adrian, and Sarah. Voice memos from meetings where clients mentioned me explicitly. Security footage from a restaurant that showed a client touching my arm while Declan smiled like it meant nothing. Every scrap, every whisper, every accidental slip, I dragged it all into a folder labeled Truth. And as I organized the evidence, I realized something. They hadn't just crossed lines. They'd broken laws. Client manipulation. Unconsented psychological profiling. Ethical breaches in consulting. Sexual implication without disclosure. Contractual misrepresentation. Adrian thought he was untouchable because he wrapped his crimes in vocabulary. But a crime dressed in corporate language is still a crime. On the third morning, I walked into the office of the firm's legal advisor, someone Declan believed was loyal to him. She wasn't loyal to people. She was loyal to risk management. And I walked in carrying a nuclear-level liability. "Marina," she said, confused, "you weren't expected today." "I know," I replied. "This isn't a business visit. It's personal and legal." She frowned, gesturing for me to sit. "What's going on?" I put my phone on her desk, opened the folder, and watched her expression drain of color as she scrolled. Messages. Files. Notes. Screenshots. Audio. She leaned back slowly. "Oh my God," she whispered. This is catastrophic." "Correct," I said. She looked at me, eyes wide. "If this goes public, if investors see this, the firm crumbles." Correct again. And Adrian, Declan, Sierra, they're all complicit. They are. Her hands trembled. "What do you want me to do?" I exhaled. "Here's exactly what I want." My list was simple. A written, notarized statement documenting everything. Confirmation that the firm acknowledges wrongdoing. A suspension of Adrian pending investigation. A forced removal of Declan from operations. A legal guarantee that my likeness, presence, or personal information can never again be used in client dealing. And one more thing. I want every client who was told I was part of negotiations to receive a formal correction and a private apology. She stared. "You want an apology?" "No," I said softly. "I want the truth acknowledged. That's what keeps people like Adrian from rewriting the narrative." She nodded shakily. This can be arranged. But once this starts, there's no going back. Good. That was the point. Legal advisors move fast when the company's survival is at stake. Within hours, Adrian was called into a compliance meeting. Declan's access to certain drives was frozen. A quiet internal audit was triggered on client conduct. Sarah was flagged as a non-employee with unauthorized influence. They didn't know it was me. Not yet. Adrian came out of the meeting looking like a man who'd been given a problem he didn't know how to solve, which meant, for the first time, he wasn't in control. He scanned the office, searching for answers. His eyes met mine. And something in his expression shifted recognition, then calculation, then the faintest hint of fear. Good. Let him fear. That evening, as the building emptied, Declan approached me in the hallway, desperation all over him. "Marina, what did you do?" he whispered harshly. "They're saying there's an audit, that someone leaked." "I didn't leak anything," I said. He exhaled in relief. Yet, his face fell. "Mar, please," he begged. "You're destroying everything I built." "No," I said quietly. "You destroyed it the moment you decided I was part of the product." He grabbed my arm. "Please, please don't do this," Adrian said. I pulled my arm back before he finished the sentence. Adrian said, "What, Declan?" He swallowed, eyes darting. That you'd calm down eventually, that you always do." I felt a cold fire ignite in my chest. "Not this time." I stepped past him, toward the exit. He called after me, "What am I supposed to do without you?" I paused. "You should have thought about that," I said softly, "before you built your success on me instead of with me." His silence followed me all the way to the elevator. But inside the rising metal box, I finally exhaled. Because for the first time since this nightmare began, I wasn't the foundation. I wasn't the asset. I wasn't the bonus. I wasn't the presence. I was the one deciding how this story would end. By the next morning, the building felt different, tight, electric, humming with paranoia. Internal audits do that. People sense danger even if they don't know where it's coming from. Whispers followed me down the hallway. "Did you hear? Adrian's in trouble. Compliance flagged 3 accounts. Declan looks like he hasn't slept." Good. Truth moves fast when it's finally unchained. At noon, a mandatory meeting was called. Everyone stood inside the glass conference room, tense, confused, waiting. Adrian walked in last. His perfect posture was still intact, but his certainty wasn't. There was a crack in his expression, now thin, but unmistakable. The head of compliance stepped forward. "We've received concerning materials regarding inappropriate client influence and unethical representation in negotiations," she said. A hush fell. Adrian's jaw tightened. Declan swallowed hard. And in the back of the room, Sarah stood with her arms crossed, eyes darting like she was searching for the nearest exit. For once, everyone knew something they weren't supposed to. Not everything in this firm was clean. And whatever was coming wouldn't be small. After the meeting dissolved into frantic whispers, Adrian approached me in the hallway for the first time, not with confidence, but with caution. "Marina," he said quietly, "I'd like to speak with you." I didn't stop walking. He matched my pace. "This situation is delicate," he said. "It can be repaired if handled correctly." "Repaired?" I repeated. "Is that what you call dismantling my life and grooming me into your company template?" His jaw flexed. "You're emotional. I understand. But—" "No," I said sharply. "You don't understand. You understand patterns, outcomes, predictable behavior. But me? You never understood me. You just measured me." He stopped walking. That hit him. "You're making a mistake," he said quietly. I turned around slowly. "Your mistake," I replied, "was thinking I couldn't make one back." And I walked away. Later that afternoon, Declan cornered me outside the parking garage looking small, exhausted, and terrified. "Marina, please," he said, voice shaky. "They suspended me. They suspended Adrian. They're reviewing all client accounts. Investors are pulling out. Everything's falling apart." "That's not my doing," I said. "That's yours." "You don't have proof it was wrong," he insisted, voice breaking. Clients were never hurt. Nothing was inappropriate. We never crossed the line. You crossed my line, I said, and you didn't even hesitate. He covered his face with his hands, breath trembling. I was desperate, he whispered. The firm was sinking. Adrian said. He said your presence could save us. The worst part? He believed that was justification. I took a step closer. I could have helped you, I said. I would have helped you if you asked. Instead, you offered me. He raised his head. I'm your brother. Then you should have acted like one. He sank against the concrete wall, defeated. And for the first time since this began, I didn't feel guilt. Only release. That evening, Sarah showed up outside my building again, eyes red, mascara smudged. I'm sorry, she blurted. I didn't know it would blow up like this. You knew exactly what you were doing, I said quietly. You just didn't think it would cost you anything. She wiped her eyes. Adrian told me I had potential, that I could work in corporate strategy, that this was my chance. I wanted a life bigger than mine. Then you should have built it, I said. Not stolen pieces from mine. She broke, crying, apologizing, reaching for me. I stepped back. I hope you get the life you want, I said. But it won't be through me. Her sobs echoed down the hallway as I turned away. Closure isn't always forgiveness. Sometimes it's just the door staying closed. By Friday, the firm announced Adrian Locke was being terminated. Declan Vale was being removed from client-facing operations. A full investigation was underway. All psychological profiling tools were suspended permanently. Investors demanded assurances. Clients wanted explanations. Partners threatened lawsuits. The empire they built on exploitation cracked in one swift hit. Because the foundation wasn't me, it was their arrogance. And arrogance never survives the truth. For the first time in months, I woke up without dread sitting on my chest. I made breakfast. I watered my plants. I played music in my kitchen just because I could. And when my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number, I almost ignored it. But I didn't. It was from the head of compliance. Marina, the board wants to offer compensation for emotional damages. Also, 3 clients specifically asked us to thank you. They said your presence made them feel safe, not manipulated. Safe, not manipulated. That mattered. More than any apology Declan or Sarah could muster. Because for months, they used my humanity as a business tool. But the clients, the ones who unknowingly participated, saw me as something else entirely. A person. Not an asset. Not a tactic. A person. I didn't destroy their firm. I just stopped holding it up. And sometimes, that's all it takes for the truth to finally stand where manipulation once did.